What up? What up? It's your boy Django from the Focus on Words podcast, where you know the truth. I may not always be right, but I will always be real. And I know that the limits of my words are the limits of my universe. So, together, as I go through these concepts, these ideas, all I ask is that you ride with me. Every single one of these posts that I do, I actually write on Patreon. So if you want to read along, you can. I go a little bit off script, but I'm just grateful for you, whether you're listening, whether you're watching the video, like for you to join me here at the Focus on Words podcast. It just means that the world matters to you. And that's not something that's true for everyone. So I just want you to know I'm infinitely grateful for you. And today we're talking about Jake Paul. And I think I did this post about Justin Bieber and about what we do for celebrities. And I just hope to humanize him and ourselves a little bit more. Because the more that you actually understand about Jake Paul's role in Western culture, I think the more that you'll understand some of those spaces in your own life that you might not enjoy. So, without further ado, in 1961, Daniel J. Boorstin wrote The Image. He argued that modern culture had reached a tipping point. We were no longer elevating people for what they did, but for how visible they were. He called this the rise of the pseudo event, and the human pseudo event was the celebrity. He's now famous for saying lines that cut through the noise of the digital age with surgical precision. The celebrity is a person who is known for his well-knownness. When you think about Jake Paul, he was terminal velocity when it comes to that prophecy. He did not emerge from the traditional meritocracy of talent, nor did he rise through the quiet desperations of a craft. You know, he wasn't a singer, he wasn't a rapper, an actor. He was born into what I call the graphic revolution, a world where the image is more real than the object it represents. He has always been this, a figure whose primary achievement is his my fault, is his ubiquity. In Boorstin's framework, celebrities like Paul are not admired so much as they are emptied. They become containers, vessels into which a fractured public pours its fantasy, its resentment, its longing, and its moral expectation. Their interior lives are irrelevant. Their humanity is an inconvenience to the narrative. What matters is the image and its circulation. Boorstin understood that when admiration is detached from clear traditional achievement, it doesn't just fade, it curdles into a visceral resentment. The attention begins to feel unearned. The image feels hollow. And in the logic of the public square, hollow images invite destruction. Now, if you remember, I also did this article on Patreon for Justin Bieber, and it highlights how him, even though being talented, ran into the same challenge. Now, the genesis of spectacle. The path began in the frantic 6-second loops of Vine and the high energy neon saturated feeds of early TikTok and YouTube. I don't know if you guys remember Vine, but those 6 seconds gave us some of the classics and also some of the people that are still celebrities today. This was the laboratory where the human pseudo event was perfected. For Jake Paul, the medium was never just the message. The medium was the life. Guy Debord, the French situationalist who gave us The Society of the Spectacle, one of my favorite books, argued that modern life is no longer organized around lived experiences, but around representations of those experiences. The spectacle does not merely entertain, it structures reality itself. In those early days, Paul wasn't just a creator, he was a symptom. He lived loudly so the rest of society could remain passive. Every prank, every manufactured Team 10 drama, and every algorithm optimized scandal was a brick in the wall of the spectacle. Meaning was replaced by visibility. Truth was replaced by repetition. If Jake Paul said he was the biggest star in the world enough times, the metrics eventually made it so, regardless of whether there was any there. But the spectacle has a hunger. It cannot sustain attention without escalation. By the time Paul moved from Disney Channel antics to the murky world of cryptocurrency rug pulls and influencer scams, the audience's relationship with him had shifted. He was no longer a goofy avatar of youth. He was becoming the villain the spectacle demanded. Debord understood this clearly. Idols are not elevated despite their eventual fall. They are elevated because of it. The rug pull era wasn't a mistake in branding. It was a necessary escalation of the image. It provided the public with a legitimate reason to hate the visibility they had granted him. it turned the well-knownness into a target. I just want you guys to think about that. Like early on, he was just this jokester and prankster. And as time went on, people just started to hate him. They didn't like him. And as time goes on, you start to think to yourself, like, I really don't like this guy. And eventually, he got into the process of doing things that gave us legitimate reasons to hate him. And so I think no one shows this blueprint better than Floyd Money Mayweather. Within this system, Paul realized a fundamental truth that Floyd Money Mayweather had pioneered. The public will pay more to see you lose than they ever will to see you win. Mayweather recognized that the audience had placed him in a role, the arrogant, untouchable antagonist, and he leaned into it until his bank account groaned under the weight of hate watch revenue. I just want to say, I don't know that I coined that. I wrote it down. I kind of Googled it, but I love to call this concept hate watch revenue. And so Paul adopted this blueprint and applied it to the most visceral stage available, just like Floyd, the boxing ring. Boxing is the ultimate Deborian spectacle because it requires a body, it requires the physical possibility of annihilation to feel complete. When Paul transitioned from influencer to prizefighter, he wasn't just switching careers, he was providing a venue for the public's resentment to be enacted. Every time he steps into the ring against a retired UFC legend or a heavyweight icon like Mike Tyson or what just happened recently, the world tunes in with a singular, collective prayer. Let this be the night the image breaks. They hate that they have to watch, and they hate that his success continues, but they cannot look away because the spectacle requires a climax. Rise without ruin is unfinished business. For Paul, the wins are almost secondary to the unearned nature of his presence in the sport. Each victory is a middle finger to the traditionalists, which in turn increases the visibility. Boorstin described it, which then in turn increases the price of the next ticket. He's commodified the very hatred he inspires. And that's where we end up here. Why is this hate so intense? Why does a 28-year-old from Ohio elicit the kind of vitriol usually resolved for war criminals or corrupt politicians? Well, Chris Hedges provided a grim answer in The Empire of Illusion. Hedges argues that spectacle culture exists to anesthetize a population that has lost real agency over its own life. When political, economic, and social power feels unreachable, spectacle steps in to simulate consequence. Celebrity culture becomes a moral substitute. We cannot punish the bankers who crashed the economy, nor can we hold the architects of a system that's systematically inequal. Jesus Christ. We cannot punish the bankers who crashed the economy, nor can we hold the architects of systemic inequality to account, but we can hope to see Jake Paul get knocked out. Celebrities are punished for us. They fall so the world appears to correct itself. Their scandals create the illusion of accountability in a system where actual power remains untouched. Jake Paul is the perfect sacrificial lamb for this ritual because he represents everything the modern worker feels is unfair about the digital economy. He is wealthy for no real reason. He is famous for being famous, and he is loud in a world that demands the rest of us to be quiet. Hedges would argue that Jake's life has been rendered pornographic in the deepest sense. Not in a sexual way, but in the sense of being stripped of privacy, intimacy, and dignity, reduced entirely to perform and consume. Even his moments of apparent growth or wellness are treated with suspicion. In the eyes of the public, he's not allowed to evolve. He is to be the villain, period. Any attempt at humanity is seen as a new angle for the scam. We have collectively decided that his interior life is irrelevant. He is merely a surface onto which we project our fear, our desire, and our moral judgment. Now, here's the thing. In the recent events, the brutal 6-round knockout at the hands of Anthony Joshua and the resulting double broken jaw, it represents the spectacle reaching its fulfillment. For years, Paul eluded the trapdoor that Boorstin and Debord described. He won fights he was supposed to lose. He escaped scandals that should have buried him. But the spectacle eventually demands its pound of flesh. As he sat in a Miami hospital, posting x-rays of his shattered jaw to the very platforms that built him, the cycle felt complete. The public didn't see him as a man injured. They saw the pseudo event finally colliding with the real. There is a dark, voyeuristic satisfaction in seeing the pornographic life meet a physical consequence. This is the new kind of idolatry. Not worship followed by disappointment, but worship designed for disappointment. We raised him to the height specifically so the fall would feel meaningful. The broken jaw is literally the ritual release. It is proof that something can still break in a world that feels otherwise unmovable. For a brief moment, the empire of illusion cracked and the audience felt a sense of control. They had managed the celebrity. They had poured their resentment into the vessel until it finally shattered under the pressure. Now, here's the truth of the matter. Jake Paul now stands at the ultimate crossroad of the modern image. He has reached the point where the visibility Boorstin described has peaked. He's earned the $50 million a year. He's engaged to the world-class athlete that many people wish they could spend a moment with, and he has the most valuable promotions empire. He has more than enough to disappear. He could walk away, focus on his future kids, and let the world eventually forget him. He could close the book on the problem child and attempt to reclaim the privacy Hedges says he has lost. But the real question is, can he? The tragedy of the human pseudo event is that the image often consumes the man. When your entire existence is predicated on being well known for your well-knownness, who are you when the cameras turn off? The spectacle is an addiction, not just for the viewer, but for the idol. To disappear is to cease to exist in the only way he has known since his teens. The world is waiting for him to try to come back, to see if he can sell one more miracle return, one more redemption arc, or one more villainous payday. But the trapdoor is always there, swinging open. Whether he falls through it into obscurity or jumps into it to escape the noise, the result for us is the same. We will move on to the next vessel, the next empty container, and begin the process of filling them with our hate all over again. Jake Paul didn't invent the system. He just learned how to invoice it. But as Debord warned, the spectacle eventually requires the total annihilation of the idol to feel truly complete. The only question left is whether Jake will stay in the ring long enough to let it happen. Now, at the end of the day, as you guys know, I love to create. And I actually did an article similar to this about Justin Bieber. And in that one, I actually drew a parallel to South Park episode where it was Britney's new look. And I think that if you've never seen that, just go watch it because it really brings into like visibility the concept of what we actually do with these celebrities. Justin Bieber, Michael Jackson, Kim Kardashian, Kanye West. It's like once someone gets to a certain level of fame, there's a belief that we have a right to this person's space because, well, they have what, if I had it, I would be willing to give that up. But we don't realize how much of our hate goes into that because of the world that we live in, because of how life has been, because of like what we see with the politicians and with the money and the debt and the wars. Like, what do we really have in life? It's just starting to get crazy. And when it gets crazy, we turn to the celebrities to basically play out like the gladiators. It's an insane concept. Honestly, like I still am trying to wrap my head around it. But if you enjoyed this, all I ask is you like and subscribe. If you want to read it, head over to the Patreon. It's available for free. And honestly, I just want y'all to know I'm grateful for you. I'm so thankful for the last like 120 days. I never could have imagined in a million years anyone would care about my content. I just made it because I love to learn. I love to think. I love to try to better understand myself. And so for every single person, follow me on IG, Django Degree. Follow me here on YouTube, subscribe, Patreon, any other platforms. I'm here to connect. Never forget, you're amazing. You're phenomenal. You're incredible. You're sensational. You're divine. You're bodacious. You're tantalizing. You're perfect. And I love you unconditionally. Until next time, peace.